Hello everyone, Kadada here to bring you an update regarding Play WoW with any controller guide. And a few mistakes were made in there, and if you have seen the original video you can basically just watch this little intro that I made while flying around in Draenor while I point out what was wrong. If you haven't seen it, there's an annotation right now on the screen, you can click it in order to go to the guide. So, and that guide is fixed. So some things I couldn't fix anymore as an image because I couldn't deliver the exact same quest which I did before, but listen to the speech and you will be fine. So the first point the developer made on my original video was what the keyboard settings did within Consoleport. The keyboard settings are actually meant to change the language of the chat function in Consoleport for your controller, which is basically logical. And it's fixed within the guide and I will tell you exactly what it does. So you can change your language in there. So if you're not typing in English, let's say you're typing Russian, you can actually change the keyboard layout to Russian so you can chat in Russian. The second point he made was the interact button. I recommended to disable it, but it's just a few skills that are incompatible with the interact button. And the trick is to bind a key that requires a target. For example, in the video I have disengage on R1, which is the interact button, which doesn't work because it doesn't require a target. So if you have a skill that requires a target, you will be having no problems at all. The third thing he mentioned was why I didn't recommend healing with it. Well, first of all, I thought that you needed to drag your cursor all over the place in order to heal, which is not true. There is a function that will allow you to use the D-pad in order to change between targets, which is a very great system, very clever system as well. So from now on you are basically able to heal with Consoleport. Great addition. The fourth point he made was that basically changing to a controller was easy. I don't 100% agree with this, especially not talking from my own experience. I'm still having issues to get used to it on my main. Yes, I can use it on low levels, but I simply can't use it on my main. This doesn't mean I'm bad at the game or whatever, it's just something personal which I can't get used to easily. But since basically everything is playable for every class now, I can recommend it as well for raiding in any spec. So enjoy the guide. Hello everyone, Kadordo here with another guide for World of Warcraft. This is going to be my updated controller guide. So the first thing we're going to need is Consoleport. Consoleport is something that basically allows the user interface to change with the buttons and layout of a controller. It also will prompt you at the first startup in order to set up the controller. So I'm going to be installing this throughout Curse. You can also do it manual, I leave that up to you. I use Curse, so that's good. The second thing you're going to need is WoW Mapper. WoW Mapper is at the bottom of this page right over here, and when you click it you will get a new pop-up. I have it on the top over here already, and I will download the setup.exe. So I will wait till it's done, and for some reason my computer doesn't want to run it straight away, so I need to do this. This is your basic setup. Just click next, put it in a folder. I put it on C because yeah, I have the space for it. I will create a desktop icon and I will press install. So now I'm going to launch it. So now it will ask me to install SlimDX 4.0. I will click yes, else I can't use the program. So yes, of course I want it. And I will download the X64 download on net 4.0, because I'm pretty sure with Windows 10 you're running net 4.0. I'm not quite sure when you're using net 2.0, but that's up to you to figure out. Just install. It will turn black for a little moment because on my other screen there's some mumbo jumbo going. And you're done. Now it's installing and finish. So I have the icon now for WoW Mapper. As you can see, my DualShock 4 controller gets detected instantly. I'm not quite sure if that's because I already had it installed, else you need to find a driver for it, but I will put a link in the description if I'm able to find any driver just for the DualShock 4 controller, but the best would be just to find it yourself so you are sure you have the latest one. So as you can see, you have a few options in here which you can set up, but basically everything is set up, just don't change them. The more personal preference when it comes up to the lights, and that's basically it. This is the layout in WoW Mapper that is given to the controller. So that's actually pretty cool. You don't have to do anything. It just works straight. So that's good. So, now that we know everything is set up, we're going to launch the game. So the good thing about this new console port is that it actually works with other user interfaces like Elf UI and that kind of stuff. You might need to set up it correctly, but I will do that later inside of the video. So, when you have launched World of Warcraft, this is what you most likely would see. You will choose the controller that you're using. As I'm using the DualShock 4, I choose the DualShock 4. You press the buttons 3 times for every button displayed, as I'm doing right now. And this, we're almost done. So we're done. And as you can see, I can move around with the controller. I can move the camera a little bit. Here are a few buttons that I can press. So after a little bit of messing around and doing a dungeon, I finally got supposed to the controls. So I will be showing you what I did before doing this instance. And something new included within the console port. You can already see it on my screen. It's actually a keyboard based on your controller. You can open this by pressing L1, L2, and the guide button for an Xbox controller. This should be like LB, LT, and the guide button. And you will open up your chat, and it's just awesome. I mean, look at it. You can move around in the circle, and in the circle there are certain letters, and by pressing the button that should be on your action buttons, you can actually type that letter. It's really awesome. I really would like to thank Consoleport for this, because this was really an addition which we missed in the previous versions of Consoleport, but now that it's here, it's great. Now so for the interact button, I would recommend you to keep it on. Also an advice of the developer himself to keep it on, because the reason why it didn't work on my previous video was simply because I bound the wrong spell in my action bar to R1. If you bind a key that requires a target on R1, you can easily keep the interact button on R1. So if you're going to be using the interact button, bind it together with a key that requires a target, and you will be fine. In the menus there's actually quite a lot that you can change, and you can basically get stuff done as how you want it to set up. Here in the interface, for instance, you can set up buttons. I'm not really looking into that at the moment, but I guess it's straightforward. On the key bindings you can actually see what the buttons do, so you can get yourself familiar with the layout, and yeah, you simply know what your buttons do. And here are the keyboard bindings. Like if you're not English, you can change them to a different language. It's also on the left side, or if you have some special signs in your language, then you can actually add them or change them by the template, which is on the left side. And that's the reason why there is a keyboard. This is a singular shape which you just saw, except for other languages. So that's actually pretty nice. With the interact button on, you can actually interact with the NPCs. With the button you will see me pressing the right thumbstick, but that's because my settings were different at that moment, so don't worry about that. If the reason why my R1 didn't work was because it was bind with a skill like disengage. You need to bind it with a skill that is actually active and used on a target. So if you got something like a fireball, an arcane shot, you're fine. Just by pressing circle, it should be going straight to the right option. If it doesn't, your mouse cursor is somewhere on or something doing, like maybe trying to move something in your bag, then it doesn't work 100%, but as long as everything is closed, it works like a charm. So as you can see, I go level up instantly, level 17 right now. As you can see, you can loot. The only thing I had with Elf UI with looting is that it's not 100% accurate compared to the standard user interface. So you might want to wiggle around a little bit if you're using Elf UI or maybe some other interface that basically resizes the loot window. But if you're using the standard one, it has no issues at all. So as you can see, I'm killing off things. I haven't set up anything for my pet. I skip forward and we go to the first boss. So because I have no key bindings for taunt, I let my pet hit it a few times so he can build up some aggro. If you do have a taunt binding, it's easier. As you can see, I'm still using my controller. This is not done on the keyboard or whatever. This is 100% real, and just like I said, it works like a charm. You're going to need a little bit of getting supposed to it, so I would suggest starting with a lower level at the first point. But it is really nicely done. It really works like a charm. And I will kill off the first boss for you guys and the last boss, and then I will show you how you can deliver your quests. So there goes boss number 1. Let's loot it and skip towards the last boss. There we are at the last boss, and let's kill this guy. I'm going to do this with half health, so I hope it's going to be fine. As you can see, my disengage still works. That's because I disabled the interact button before, else it wouldn't work for me. Maybe it works for you, but it didn't work for me. So if you have this issue, disable the interact button and I'm pretty sure everything will work. Big drums in the background. Oh god. This might actually could be very close. And there it goes. More is enough health, so that's good. So loot the boss. My bags are full, so I'm only going to be picking up the money. As you could see, I needed to wiggle the thing a little bit up in order to get the gold. And here's my heartstone. So now that I have my heartstone, as you can see, I cannot deliver the quest anymore instantly because it doesn't jump straight to the quest, because it's actually holding the heartstone inside of its right mouse click. So it's a little bit confused and doesn't really know if it should be going to the quest or use the heartstone or actually move it around. Interacting with quest objects is exactly the same as how you would do it normally with the mouse. If the interact button is enabled, you can use that in order to loot the quest items off the ground. If it's something simple like opening a cage, which you will see in a moment, it will just open the cage. If it's something like a lootable item, it's exactly the same as looting. It's most likely something like progressing, for example, in Wailing Caverns, where you need to pick up those flowers. It will process the pickup procedure before you can loot the item, so you want to keep that in mind. So now that we have taken a look at DPS, let's take a look at healing. First thing to notice is I'm on my standard user interface because I couldn't get it to work on ElfUI. It gave me an error, I don't know why, but it works on the standard user interface. So, as you can, in order to get the healing cursor up, you need to press L1 and the guide button, or the PS button for the DualShock 4. So, when you press that, you actually get this cursor on the left side, which will allow you to target the party members or raid members. This comes with a price of not being able to use the D-pad buttons because it's actually functioning as a cursor at the moment. Why this is? Well, it's simple, else you can't target. So I don't know if it's gonna be possible ever. You can click it away together with L1 and the guide button again in order to use it, and then press it again. But while in this mode, you simply can't press the D-pad buttons with the skills. So as you can see, I'm healing this party. Of course, this is looking for dungeon. It's a low level dungeon and it's not really that interesting, but the interesting part here to see is that I'm able to heal on my controller. This is a really great addition for Consoleport, because this basically means you can use it for every class, and that's something that is really great at the moment. So now that Consoleport is able to go all around on every spec, if you can get used to the controller, you can play everything and it's lovely. So now that we've taken a look at the healing, what do I think of it myself? It's great. You can heal with it, you can tank with it, you can DPS with it. So no class really has to be left out because of this add-on. And maybe there are already a lot of players out there that are already playing with their controller, but we just don't notice it because they have been getting so supposed to the controller that they can actually even do it with more buttons. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you can build up some macros, it will surely help getting things on the controller, because do keep in mind, on the keyboard you have a lot more keys, you have a lot more possibilities to bind, and on the controller you have like, well, we actually have 3 unique action bars, so that's 36 buttons. Should be enough for every class, but it's still limited compared to our keyboard. Would I recommend it? Yes, give it a try and just see what it does for you. Anyway, I would like to thank the developer again for pointing out my mistakes in the previous video. I already said it back there in the comments. I do think you're one of my top developers out there for even putting so much effort into this add-on, man. So, in this case, if you liked my video, go like it, share it with people that might want to play it with a controller, and subscribe if you want to see more content. Also, you might want to subscribe to the developer of Consoleport. His picture is at the upper right corner right now. There will be an annotation and it will take you directly to his channel. So, I hope to see you on the next video. See ya!